Chapter 31 Moria's Unwillingness and Helplessness. You are listening at Audio. A warship with the logo of the world government was moored quietly on the sea between the three islands of Bahia, silently watching the East Island shrouded in wind and snow. From time to time, golden light, red fireballs, and the purple-black slashes and deafening roars were extremely dense. "It's been 5 days, right?" On the deck, a man in white with a white mask on his face asked in a deep voice. Behind him stood a dozen CP6 members dressed in black suits and exuding elite aura. Hearing this question, one of them quickly answered. "Your Majesty, yes, it is already the 5th day. It seems that the winner will be decided soon. How are the ghost tribesmen locked in the cabin? Are they not dead?" The man in white continued to ask without looking back. "The ship's doctors have completed the treatment. In addition, their vitality is stronger than ordinary people, so they are all alive and well. Now they have been injected with anesthetics and are still in a coma." The man in white nodded with satisfaction and said, "Yes, take good care of them." "Yes." The ruthless time continued to blow forward with the cold wind, and another 4 hours passed silently. Suddenly, Bayadong Island seemed to be quiet. Whether it's a flash or an explosion, it's all settled. The flying snow in the sky didn't know when it would stop, leaving only the bright sunshine covering everything around it. It also made the large and small explosion craters on the island and the slash marks more conspicuous and hideous. At this moment, a group of cipher pole personnel on the warship keenly heard a muffled bang, and then a black figure flew out quickly from inside the East Island. The black shadow fell heavily to the ground and rolled dozens of times, finally lying motionless on the still intact beach. Then a golden flash gathered around the black shadow. It was Porcellino, but he looked really embarrassed at this time. Not only was he sweating profusely, but his breathing was somewhat rapid and heavy, and the bright yellow suit on his body had become tattered. Only the justice coat was still neat, but a large section of the left sleeve was cut off. "Phew, he is really a troublesome guy. This is exhausting me to death." Porcellino looked down at Moonlight, who rolled his eyes and fainted. Moria shook his head tiredly. These 5 days of fighting experience were definitely the most difficult and longest time he had experienced since joining the Navy. Moria's strength was really good. If he hadn't had the power of the shining fruit, he might have let this guy run away, not to mention anything else. If Moonlight Moria lets the Shadow Mage fly out alone first, and then waits until he is very far away to switch places with the Shadow Warrior, then the chance of him escaping is quite high. It's just that for some unknown reason, this guy has no intention of running alone. It's blinding that he has been wary until now. 10 minutes later, the world government's warship came over, and hundreds of CP6 men in black ran down. They first put handcuffs and leg irons on Moonlight Moria, and then 6 people worked together to lift him onto the battlefield ship, and finally put into a single cell in the cabin. In the cells next to him, there were 2 ghost crew members from the Moonlight Pirates lying there. Even though they only had 20 people, but it couldn't accommodate all of them. The average body size of 6 meters per person took up a lot of space. Therefore, of the total 12 cells, only 1 was still empty at this time. "Thank you, Lieutenant General Kizaru." On the deck of the warship, the man in white from CP0 said in a deep voice to Porcellino, who appeared instantly. "Don't come to me next time something like this happens again. Also, I worked so hard this time. You go back and talk to them about the bonus." Porcellino complained, and at the same time, he turned and walked towards the cabin, preparing to go back to his room and lie down for a while. "I will, but there's no guarantee. The large underwater prison, the Impelton City, the scorching hell on the 4th floor underground. 5 days have passed since the War of Light and Shadow. This place is the core of the entire prison, where the director's office and the granary that supplies everyone in the prison are located. The reason why it is called the scorching hell is because there is a sea of fire everywhere. The ground is as hot as a frying pan, and there is a huge iron pot with a diameter of 50 meters in the center, which is filled with boiling scarlet blood. The air throughout the 4 underground floors was filled with a strong smell of blood. 2 days ago, Moonlight Moria woke up from a coma and experienced the unbearable heat for the first time. As for the smell of blood, it was actually very sweet to him. however, he was in a very bad mood. He really didn't expect that he would be caught here just a few days after entering the new world, just last year when he set sail from his hometown in the West Sea with great enthusiasm with his clan companions. Originally, I wanted to become the second pirate king. Are you finally awake? I've been waiting for you here for a long time. At this moment, a strange and indifferent voice came from outside the cell. This made Moria, whose hands and feet were chained by sea tower stone chains, suddenly raise his head and glare at the man in white who walked in. Who are you? I belong directly to the world's nobility. Dragon people. Moonlight Moria felt very surprised and asked, are the celestial dragons targeting me? Why? It can be said that as for the reason, of course it is because of you and your fruit ability. The man in white answered patiently, and then continued, the crew members of your same race are still alive. What? Moria was greatly surprised and asked quickly, where are they? Right above your head, there are 3 underground levels of hunger hell. Apart from being hungry, there is no big problem. Their injuries have also been treated by us. The man in white replied. Moria breathed a sigh of relief when he heard this, but immediately frowned and said, you came to see me and said that the Tianlong people took a fancy to my ability, so what is your purpose? The man in white liked Moria to get straight to the point. After all, the environment in Impel Down City was really bad, and he didn't want to stay any longer. The adults above hope that you can join the world government and become a jailer in this Impel Down City. However, you are also qualified for normal promotion. It is not impossible to become the director if you have the ability. What? Moonlight Mariah's eyes almost popped out of his head. He looked at the mask on the face of the man in white in shock. He spoke louder and said, you caught me here just to make me work here. It can be said that the adults above think that your fruit ability is very suitable for working in Imperton, so they asked me and Lieutenant General Kazara to invite you here. The man in white nodded. You. Moonlight Moria was irritated by the other party's word please. She felt a wave of evil energy pouring out of her belly, and she immediately stood up as if she was going to riot. He is nearly 7 meters tall and looks very scary standing up. But the man in white remained unmoved. He put his hands in the pockets of his white trousers, his attitude remained indifferent, and he didn't take Moria's aura seriously at all. I have counted 20 of your fellow crew members. According to the promise made to you by the adults, as long as you work here honestly, 1 person can be released every year to work as a jailer with you. At the same time, every time you advance to a level, you can release 1 additional person, which means that if you can become the director, you can regain your freedom in up to 15 years and leave here with your companions. As soon as these words came out, Yueguang Moria was stunned, and remained silent for nearly 20 minutes. During this period, his face continued to flash with struggle, entanglement, unwillingness and resentment, and finally turned into a long sigh. Take me to see them first. What else could he do? Chapter 32 The Distressed 5 Old Stars. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. In the dead of night, the huge full moon appeared again. Lord Im, the doctors from the Drum Kingdom are treating the mermaids and fishmen. According to their estimation, it will take about 15 days to recover. In the Void Hall, the 5 old stars knelt down and worshipped under the stage, and the one in the middle made a report respectfully. In terms of psychology, although Vice Admiral he was a little reluctant at first, he finally took action to wash away the negative emotions in their hearts. I'm very satisfied to hear this. He really couldn't bear to see the mermaids living in despair, numbness and hatred. At the same time, he was thinking about their lives. After all, if they had an extreme attitude towards the world government, the only thing waiting for them would be to be dealt with. She has no doubt about the world government's ruthlessness in this regard, but for him, no matter what her psychological changes are, as long as the results are satisfactory. Moonlight Mariah has also agreed to become the jailer of Imperton, responsible for cutting out the shadows of prisoners and managing the cut shadows. According to Director Columbus's feedback, although his attitude towards his colleagues is quite indifferent, at work, he is considered responsible, but he often sends food and water to his fellow members of the hungry hell without authorization, which gives him a headache. Let him make his own decisions in this regard. As long as it's not too much, leave it to Moria. We just need him to be obedient and work hard. Im's tone was still cold. With nearly 600,000 prisoners imprisoned in the city, Moonlight Moria faces a huge workload, not to mention the large number of prisoners that will come in later. According to Cypherpole's intelligence feedback in various sea areas, rumors about the One Piece treasure have become more and more intense, and the Navy has gradually discovered that there are more pirates at sea. What happened to the dread bark? At this time, the blonde 5-old star was responsible for answering, and said respectfully, with the help of the 3 guide birds found in the forest of Gaia Island, CP5 has found it in the Foggy Sea, and is now exploring ways to control it. Seize the time to transform. The undercurrent of the Great Pirate Era is surging everywhere. We need to use it to suppress this tsunami sweeping the world. Im looked down at the other party coldly and ordered him to go down. Yes, Lord Im. The 5 old stars responded in unison. Also, let that kid from Don Quixote's family come to see me and use him if necessary. Im said again. However, these words made the 5 old stars look at each other in surprise, with obvious doubts and confusion in their eyes, but they still agreed. I obey your oracle. Immediately afterwards, the 5-year-old star with a mustache who was still kneeling in the middle asked, would the other one be summoning? I remember he is almost 20 years old. Im frowned, but soon realized who the other party was talking about. After thinking for a moment, he said, no need for now, we will talk about it when we are 20 next year. For a while, he really couldn't think of any arrangements for the boy, so he might as well continue to let himself go and hone his own strength. Yes, Lord Im. Just when the 5 old stars thought that this visit was over and were about to say farewell, another order came from the high throne. I'm going to go out in a few days. Please prepare a car with the ability to fly for me. It should have a lot of space. What? The 5 old stars were shocked. They all raised their heads and looked at Imu in shock. The thoughts in their hearts were almost the same. Lord Imu was actually going out. This person has lived in seclusion in Yuejian for hundreds of years. Could it be that he is really restless? Why, I want to go out, can't I? Seeing the surprise in the eyes of these people, Imu asked back with displeasure in his tone. This made the 5 old stars turn from surprise to panic in an instant. No, 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 this is your freedom. Of course we have no objection, but your safety is very important. Can you tell us your goal and the time you will go out? Then the bald 5 old star holding the first-generation ghost asked softly. There are a lot of places we have to go, and the time we will be away is still uncertain. We will leave after this world conference is over, so hurry up and prepare. If you have any questions then, use the phone bug to contact us. Im thought for a while and answered simply, in fact, for more than a year, he has been staying in Yuejian, and at most he has been active in the city of Pangal. He is really depressed. This predecessor, Im, could have been a homebody for more than 800 years, but he couldn't do it. The outside world was so beautiful and wonderful, and he had long wanted to go out and see it, and there were indeed some things that he needed to deal with personally. You need to prepare for this vehicle. Take a boat. It's too slow and you can't fly. If you step on the moon by yourself, although you can fly and the speed is fast enough, it looks too staid, doesn't it? He is a dignified Lord Im, the actual length of the entire planet, so this kind of pomp needs to be guaranteed. In addition, when you go out, you will definitely encounter a lot of trivial things. You can't do these things by yourself, right? I understand, Lord Im, but in what capacity are you going to go out? And your appearance? Wulaoxing with a goatee asked worriedly. Prepare me a mediocre new identity as a celestial dragon, as well as an invisible fake pupil that can cover my pupils but won't affect my vision. As for my appearance, I haven't shown up for hundreds of years, so no one will be able to tell. Im had already thought about this and spoke his thoughts leisurely. Wu Laoxing heard that this adult was determined to go out and said nothing more. Next, they only needed to cooperate well. About Impel Down City, I want to transfer someone out. You can send someone to notify. Finally, Im suddenly thought of something and added, the 6-person meeting was over, and the 5 old stars returned to the Hall of Power, and as soon as they sat down on the sofa, they held their own small meeting. What do you think about the car that Master Im mentioned? The 5 old stars with mustaches and bald heads sitting in the middle seat were the first to speak. It's indeed a bit difficult. It's easy to say that the space needs to be large. The main reason is that the adults want to be able to fly. The scar-faced Wulaoxing, wearing a flat hat and a fluffy beard, said sadly. The 5 old star with a long straight goatee thought for a moment and suggested, why don't you ask Dr. Vegapunk if the Science Force can build a flying ship? Even if they have the ability to make it, can they make it in time with less than 3 months to go before the World Conference? Asked the bald 5 old star holding the first-generation ghost. This. Then try the devil fruit, the ability to fly. The blonde 5 old star thought for a moment and suddenly said, isn't Shurji still locked in the infinite hell? Just find a way to make him obedient. It can be solved. Sir Im said before that he has other uses for him. Apart from drawing blood to provide research materials for the scientific troops, he is not allowed to be touched easily. The mustached 5 old star shook his head. Then what else can be done? The blonde 5 old star became distressed. At this time, the scar-faced 5 old star wearing a flat hat said, devil fruit is a good idea. Although Shurji can't use it, we can find other ones. There are so many devil fruits in the treasure house that they are almost piled up into a hill. Let the people below search carefully, there must be something useful. That they followed Im's order a few days ago and took all the devil fruits from other celestial dragons to save them from being wasted by those idiots. At the same time, they had people classify and record them according to the illustrations. Therefore, it is not an exaggeration to describe the number of devil fruits in the hands of the 5 old stars as a small mountain. As for the problem of the celestial dragons being noisy, since one of them was deposed, all the celestial dragons have become more honest, whether they are mermaids or devil fruits. Okay, that's it, let's look for it first, that this is one of the foundations accumulated by the world government over hundreds of years. Chapter 33 Doflamingo was invited. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. In the North Sea, Spadameros Island is still filled with thick industrial smoke, and occasionally the sound of machinery operating in the factory can be heard. Hundreds of thousands of firearms of various types are manufactured here every month, and then loaded onto cargo ships for sale to various parts of the North Sea and even other sea areas. Therefore, this island has 3 large piers. Regardless of day or night, ships come and go very frequently, but there are very few ships moored. On this day, Doflamingo took Pika off his ship and felt a lot happy watching the lively scene of loading and unloading. Hey, business is as good as ever. Because he knows that these boxes of weapons will cause chaos, war and death in various countries and places. It can also be regarded as creating a lot of trouble for the world, and this is what he is happy to see. Sooner or later, he would destroy this sea ruled by those high-ranking celestial dragons with his own hands. Since I, Doflamingo, can't be one of the Dracos, then you Drakons won't have an easy time either. When he thought of this, Doflamingo's eyes showed madness and murderous intent, but all of this was completely covered by his sunglasses. Dover, I heard that Barrett guy has been arrested by the Navy, and the person who took action was that Garp. Pika, who is 4 and 30 meters tall, looks very happy following Doflamingo, but his voice sounds very shrill. Compared with his gladiator armor and rough muscle appearance, it makes him look very happy. People have a strong sense of disobedience. Bah, that guy is a brainless idiot at first glance. No matter what he does, such a person will never last long, and his end is destined to be miserable. Doflamingo walked with an arrogant step as if he had no relatives, sneered, and walked leisurely along the mountains of industrial waste piled on the edge of the island towards his base. Sometimes I wonder why there are so many fools in the world who can only use their fists but don't use their brains to think. No matter how strong a person is, how many opponents can he deal with? Strategy, power, military power, financial resources, even reputation and status, these things are actually part of power. Pika behind him listened carefully to Doflamingo's words. He liked the latter's confident look very much. His young master should be so advantageous and smart. The Don Quixote family could not develop to its current scale without Doflamingo's planning and leadership. But as soon as the two of them approached their small building by the sea, they suddenly noticed something was wrong. Doflamingo was well aware of the benefits of nurturing direct lineage from an early age, so he adopted many young orphans and brought them here if he thought they were good, so usually when you walk to this location, you can hear the playing sounds of 9-year-old Euradius, 6-year-old Baffaro, and Monet, but now, it's quiet, very quiet, except for the sound of the waves crashing and the chirping of seagulls in the air. There is no sound of anyone else. Rebel. Diamandi. Soon, the small building came into view. Just seeing the messy scene, Pika screamed in shock. At this time, all the cadres and children of the Don Quixote family fell to the ground, and they were unconscious. Or dead. Doflamingo's pupils shrank into a flash, and he exuded a dangerous aura. Anyone who knows him well knows that Brother Ming is angry. Doflamingo is a person who cares about his family very much. To him, the four people Virgo, Rebel, Diamandi and Pika who first appeared around him are his family. Don't say anyone hurts them, even if they make a mockery, they will deal with it ruthlessly. Before, Buffalo laughed because of Pika's tone and was severely beaten by the latter. Doflamingo did nothing to stop him, even though Pika killed Buffalo on the spot, his eyelids not even blinking. Close, distant, foreign, and enemy, these four types of people are clearly divided in his mind. Pika disappeared from the spot in an instant and appeared next to Rebel at an extremely fast speed, squatting down to check. The coat that the latter often wore like a quilt had melted into a pool of blue slime, leaving him lying on the ground with his thin upper body exposed, and a golden cane broken into 2 pieces fell beside him. Not far away, Diamandi looked even worse. His abdomen was bruised and purple. It could be seen at a glance that he had been hit hard, and there was still scarlet blood at the corner of his mouth. I'm not dead, I'm still alive, that's great. Pika felt happy at first, and then became furious, and his already high-pitched voice became even sharper and harsher. Who did this? Who did this? There are people inside. Doflamingo walked to Pika and stopped to remind him, his eyes fixed on the small building. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the door on the first floor being pushed open from the inside, and an extremely thin and tall figure wearing a white mask, white suit and coat came out. Who are you? Doflamingo took out his hands from his trouser pockets. In fact, with his temper, he should have taken action without saying a word, but when he saw Sakaski, he sensed a strong and dangerous aura, which made him cautious, but the man in white didn't answer, but tilted his head and looked at Pika. The next moment, he disappeared from the spot with a swishing sound, and then appeared in front of Pika. This made Doflamingo and Pika's expressions change, especially the latter's armed color hockey. It covered them all, and their whole body was dyed with a layer of black. It's just that the man in white was too fast, and Pika couldn't make the next move at all. He was hit by a heavy punch in the abdomen, and his whole body immediately turned into a huge cannonball and flew backwards. Dang! At the same time, the 5-colored thread that Doflamingo waved over was easily grasped by the left palm of the man in white. It was as tough and sharp as piano wire, and could easily cut the extremely fine threads of a sea ship. It was completely unable to hurt the latter's palm. The former secretly thought something was wrong. Don Quixote Doflamingo, there are some things that are only suitable for you to listen to. By the way, I am a member of the world government. But just when Doflamingo was about to attack further, the man in white suddenly spoke to stop him, and after saying that, he let go of the 5-color thread. Doflamingo watched the man in white retreat a few meters, hesitated for a few seconds and then retracted his hand, suppressing the violence and anger in his heart. Firstly, the latter's strength was obviously much stronger than his. Secondly, Pika, Diamandi and others were not in danger of life, they just passed out. From these 2 points, it can be seen that the other party does not have murderous intentions, and this person claims to be from the world government, and his dressing style is indeed very similar. but he changed from a black suit to a white suit. At this time, Doflamingo came into contact with CP0 for the first time. "What do you want to say?" that the man in white said coldly. "The adults want to see you, come with me." "Mary Joa?" Doflamingo opened his eyes under his sunglasses in surprise. "The 5 old stars sent you here." "That's right." Hearing this, Doflamingo's face turned even darker, and he gritted his teeth and sneered. "I wanted to go back at first, but you refused, and now you want me to go back obediently. What do you think of me? Also, you beat them to the ground just to inform you of this sentence." That when the man in white heard such a question, there was no change. His tone was still cold, like a machine without emotion, and he said, "It was your people who took action first. As for the one just now, I found that knocking him unconscious is a very convenient way. So what is your decision? Leave or refuse?" Doflamingo sneered and asked, "What if I say I can't go? Knock him out and take him away." Chapter 34 The Changes in Moria and Xiliu. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Impel Down City, 4th underground level, scorching hell. The environment here is still as hot and dry as the abyss of the earth, and the air is filled with disgusting blood. I saw a prisoner wearing a zebra-print prison uniform. Under the scolding and whipping of the vicious guards, he endured the burning pain in the soles of his feet, carried bundles of dry firewood towards the boiling pool of blood, and then lined up to pick him up. Thrown into the fire under the cauldron. At this time, Moonlight Moria, who had just become a little jailer, was walking in and out of the cell room holding a 2-meter-long pair of scissors. Just like now, I just walked out of the cell and opened the next cell door. Under the horrified eyes of the prisoner inside, I pinched the opponent's upper body with my left hand like a chicken, cut off the shadow under him with a click, and then flicked him away. Go to the wall on the side, and then throw the struggling shadow in your hand into the shadow box you carry with you like garbage. This shadow box is actually made from the shape of his shadow, that a shadow mage, because in order to preserve the shadow, in addition to the physical body, only a box that is also a shadow can do it. Compared with the former, the number of shadows that can be stored in the latter is almost unlimited. After all, shadows have no substance and can be stuffed into the shadow box by just rubbing them. He prepared 4 such shadow boxes to store the shadows of prisoners in the Scorching Hell, Hungry Hell, Beast Hell, and Red Lotus Hell. Director Columbus stipulated that he could only move between these 4 floors. Because all the prisoners in the extreme cold hell on the 5 underground floors are big pirates with a bounty of hundreds of millions, and the prisoners in the infinite hell on the 6 underground floors are all extraordinary, and each one of them was punished for being too vicious. A monster-level pirate erased from history. Moria didn't care. These 4 layers of prisoners were enough for him to cut for several years. It was good to have 2 fewer layers. At least on the surface, he seemed very obedient. Moreover, he found that the environment in this city was very suitable for his life. This kind of place without seeing the sun all day long was very comfortable for the ghost people, but it was difficult to carry out the light burial program. Just as Moria walked out of the cell with a cold face and was about to go to the next one, 2 colleagues wearing jailer uniforms and holding muskets were patrolling and chatting. Although their voices were lowered, they were still more noticeable in this environment. Xiliu Warden is about to be transferred out. That's great. Once this murderous star is gone, we low-level jailers no longer have to worry about dying under the sword of our own people. Who says it's not the case, but the happiest ones should be the prisoners. Over the years, the number of those who have died at the hands of Warden Xiliu has been hundreds, if not 1,000. Oh no, it's hundreds, right? Hearing this, Moria didn't pay any attention to it, because he really didn't know Xiliu. On the contrary, it was Deputy Director Magellan who left a deep impression on him. The way he looked like he was exuding poisonous gas was quite scary. The aura of Director Columbus is even more unfathomable. Anyway, he is not someone he can deal with now. However, there is a question: how to get promoted in this place? Is it a meritorious service? But where does the merit come from? When he thought of this, Moria stopped and was stunned. He thought to himself, no, it seems that as long as the world government is willing, I will never be able to upgrade in my life, so I will probably have to stay here for the whole life. 20 years. For some reason, his mind started to think, and he thought of the future inexplicably. If he was still a jailer in 10 years' time. So who is he, the strongest jailer in the history of Down? In the director's office in the distance, Xiliu had completed the resignation procedures with the director and was walking out with a paper bag containing various documents, but as soon as he came out, he saw a man in black who was nearly 5 meters tall, dressed like a devil, wearing long curved horns and carrying devil bat wings standing there. "Hey, Deputy Director Magellan, I didn't expect you to come and give me a ride. It seems you don't hate me very much." Xiliu teased. "No, I hate you." Magellan did not save any face for this former colleague who was about to leave, and said with a cold face, "I just came to see you get out of Down with my own eyes, so that I can make sure that I will never see you again." "Ah, you are so heartless." Xiliu grinned without being angry, took out a valuable cigar from his coat pocket and put it in his mouth, then lit it with a lighter and took a deep breath of smoke. He took a look at the harsh environment of the scorching hell, and while exhaling thick smoke, he sighed, "Actually, I quite like this place. I don't know if I can feed the thunderstorm when I get to the Navy." After finishing speaking, he passed by Magellan and walked towards the elevator leading to the first floor above the sea. The former looked at the latter's figure walking further and further away, shook his head and sighed. "I don't know what happened to the Navy, but he actually took this bastard over. I hope someone over there can restrain him, otherwise there will be a river of blood. But on the other hand, it is indeed a good thing for them to push forward the city." Xiliu came here with regret and nostalgia, and took the elevator to the first floor of the sea. The place was still as lively as ever, and the new prisoners who were arrested lined up waiting to be stripped and baptized. Well, the whole body baptism with 100-degree boiling water is absolutely stimulating, and then you put on a brand new black and white striped prison uniform, and undergo a second disinfection with high temperature in the scorching hell on the 4th floor underground. Kim was thrown into a different hell. The jailers and other staff who were supervising the prisoners were stunned when they saw Xiliu, and no one dared to come up and say hello. At most, he watched with fear or happiness in his eyes, but Xiliu didn't care. In his eyes, these are the weak, and the weak are not worthy of his care at all. They are only suitable to pass the time and let thunderstorm drink blood. After passing the iron fence, you can see the door leading to the outside world. This is a door embedded in a high wall and made of solid steel. The next thing was simple. He successfully boarded the Navy ship that came to pick him up and slowly sailed away from this underwater prison where he had been staying for many years. The strange thing is that although he looked nostalgic just now, Xiliu didn't even look back, and his eyes were full of expectations for the future. No matter what, coming out of it is equivalent to freedom. If you don't enjoy your stay in the Navy, you can leave whenever you want, right? Therefore, Xiliu is in a very happy mood now, so happy that his eyes turn slightly red when he looks at the sailors around him, and his hands suddenly feel itchy. But when the warship sailed out of the first gate of justice, he noticed something was wrong because the ship did not follow the triangular current to the next gate of justice. "Aren't we going to report to MaleProtagonist?" Xiliu asked the major commanding in front, and at the same time he felt vigilant in his heart. "It was originally like this, but because you were transferred to Lieutenant General Akainu as an adjutant, and Lieutenant General Akainu just received a mission, he informed us to take you there directly and wait until the mission is completed. Let's return to MaleProtagonist together." Since Xiliu was appointed to the rank of colonel at the Navy headquarters, the major naturally responded with honorifics. "Lieutenant General Akainu." Xiliu looked stunned. Although he was working as an errand in Jinjin City, he didn't really know anything about the outside world. The World Economic News is delivered on time every issue, and coupled with the harsh environment inside, reading newspapers has become the first leisure item, so I still know about the 3 newly promoted generals in the Navy. That high-level natural lava fruit user, Sakaski? Yes. Chapter 35 Xiliu's Style. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. 2 hours later, the warship successfully rendezvoused with another warship. Following the major's instructions, Xiliu walked alone on the plank to the latter's deck. At the same time, at a glance, I saw the back of Sakaski standing on the bow of the ship. In Xiliu's eyes, although Lieutenant General Akainu was 1 head taller than him, the aura exuding from his whole body was more powerful than Magellan's. This made him feel a little heavier, and his expression had already calmed down. Reporting to Lieutenant General Akainu, the former warden of Down City and now the captain of the Navy headquarters, Xiliu reports to you. As soon as he finished speaking, Sakaski turned around slowly, folded his arms across his chest, and glanced around the former with oppressive eyes. Chief Warden of Down City, you are responsible for guarding prisoners. What do you think of pirates? Tell me, that when Xiliu heard this, he subconsciously thought about the other party's intentions. His understanding of Sakaski was limited to what was introduced in the newspaper, the general's replacement title and the natural lava fruit ability. As for his personality, likes and dislikes, these were completely different. Clear, in this case, he chose to answer according to his own heart. A bunch of rubbish. Except for people with abilities, the others should not be locked up and wasted on food. If the waste must be reused, it can be used as soldiers' rifle targets and knife test mats. Sakaski raised his brows. Although his expression was calm, he felt very satisfied in his heart. He originally thought that if a merciful person showed up, he would just kick him out and let him swim back to Marineland to wait for reassignment. That's right. I hope you can keep your word later. After saying that, he ordered the sailors standing by, let's go. Yes, that the sailor quickly ran back to the cabin to deliver the order. Soon, the huge ship under his feet started to move. You should have some understanding of this mission, right? Sakaski asked in a deep voice. Xiliu nodded. On his way here, he had already read the mission contents sent by the other party. It said that the Kingdom of Maidan, located on the first half of the Grand Route, Route 1, and the fourth island, was attacked by a large number of pirates. Route number 1 happened to be close to the windless sea area where Down City was located, so they were relatively close warships. When Sakaski heard the words a large number of pirates, he immediately took over the mission without giving any thought to Marine Fandana. Give the opportunity to other nearby warships. Also, in order to rush for time, Sakaski did not go to City to pick up Xiliu, but asked the latter to come quickly on someone else's warship. I won't take the first step in this mission, you will lead the team to solve it. No problem, I'm looking forward to it too. Xiliu touched the red-banded handle of the thunderstorm on his waist with his right hand and showed a cold smile. He really didn't expect that he would have the opportunity to go on a killing spree as soon as he entered Down City. He was even more satisfied with this transfer, but his commander seemed too strong. In Down City, although he, the warden, was the third in command, he was actually equivalent to the second in command. Except for Director Columbus' orders, he didn't have to deal with anyone at all, including Deputy Director Magellan. As for the other jail chiefs and prison chiefs, seeing him was like a mouse seeing a cat. As for Director Columbus, unless the world government needs his cooperation, he usually doesn't have a strong sense of presence and doesn't talk much. He even turns a blind eye to the private killings of prisoners from time to time, and basically doesn't care about the first 4 floors. In his eyes, prisoners, starting from the 5th level, with bounties worth hundreds of millions, are considered important assets. On the contrary, Magellan often scolded himself for these things, which was why he was so annoyed with the former. Didn't he just kill some little bastards? Why bother nagging him endlessly? When a headquarters-class warship carefully manufactured by the shipwrights of the Seven Waters capital sailed at full speed, it showed amazing efficiency and speed, and arrived in the waters near the Kingdom of Maidan in only 1 hour and 7 minutes. At this distance, Sakaski, Xiliu and others on the deck could already hear the roar brought by the sea breeze. Looking from a distance, they could vaguely see 7 or 8 warships flying the pirate flag, heading towards the towns on the island were bombarded continuously. Among them, one ship gradually stopped shelling and slowly turned its bow, seemingly about to sail out of the dock and prepare to leave. It seems that we have been discovered. Xiliu smiled while blowing the sea breeze. I saw him casually taking out a cigar, putting it in his mouth and lighting it on fire. Whenever he wanted to kill someone, and when he killed many people, his mood would get excited. Taking a puff of cigarette at this time was the biggest thing for him. Enjoyment. Regarding his words and actions, Sakaski did not respond or interfere. Since he had previously said that the task would be handed over to the other party, he would just let him do it. Of course, he wouldn't really let the pirates escape in front of him. Whoosh! The next second, like other naval officers, Xiliu, who was wearing a coat of justice, turned into an afterimage and disappeared, leaving only a faint smoke floating in the air. This made all the officers and sailors on the deck look forward to the adjutant's next performance. At the same time, other pirate warships also stopped their bombardment and hurriedly turned their bows. Apparently, they also discovered the approaching huge warship. Among them, the first ship to react had completed its turn and was heading in the other direction. Hurry! Hurry up! Now is not the time to fight the navy. That on the pirate ship, a giant man in iron armor, nearly 4 meters tall, with a strong build and a fierce face, waved the machete in his hand and shouted loudly. The other pirates on the ship looked like very normal soldiers in terms of temperament and clothing. In short, they did not feel like pirates. Call out. At this moment, a sharp sound of breaking through the air sounded in the ears, which made the giant man and the crew members change their expressions. The former even subconsciously shouted, "Be careful of shelling." Not just him, everyone thought that the warship in the distance had fired, but a few seconds later, as the sound of breaking through the air disappeared, nothing happened. Not to mention that the hull was shelled, there was not even a water column exploding on the sea. This made rows of golden question marks light up on their heads. "Hey, you trash, it's time to die, so smile." Suddenly, a chilling and sinister laughter sounded from above. Everyone looked up and saw a 3-meter-tall naval commander standing on the top of the mast with a glowing red pupil, looking at them teasingly. "You," the giant man raised his machete and pointed it at the other person, and just as he was about to say something viciously, the person in his sight disappeared in the blink of an eye, except for a faint flash of bloody red light. Ka! Boss Cass! The surrounding pirates were shocked because they saw the navy who was still on the mast a second ago suddenly appeared behind Boss Cass, and the long knife on his waist was already unsheathed, flashing coldly under the sunlight. Mango! At the same time, a thin line of blood gradually appeared on the giant man's neck, and the armor on his body turned into pieces and fell to the ground. Who knows how many times he was stabbed at this moment. Xiliu didn't even look at Cass behind him. Even though the man in front of him was still breathing and conscious, he was still a corpse in his eyes. Whoosh! The next second, his entire body turned into a white afterimage, flying at high speed among the exclamations and screams of hundreds of armed pirates, and streaks of blood-red sword light were drawn in the air. He likes to kill people, and he doesn't like to cut up and destroy ships. Instead, he likes to kill one by one with his knife. The feeling of the blade cutting through the flesh really makes him intoxicated. There is a saying that killing is a bad habit, but he can't quit it. Chapter 36 Sakaski's Appreciation and Satisfaction. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. There were more than 100 people on and off the entire pirate ship. In less than 10 seconds, they all covered their necks and fell in a pool of blood. Xiliu stood among the corpses with a satisfied look on his face, full of killing intent. He glanced at the remaining pirate ships. Boom! 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 The warship where Sakaski was on began to exchange bombardments with 7 pirate ships. A black cannonball that turned red with fever roared in the air, or fell into the sea and raised a high water column, or hit the hull and exploded. A big ball of fire, especially the triple turret on the bow of the warship, whether it is range, rate of fire, or accuracy, it completely overwhelms the pirate ship on the opposite side. The defensive power of the ship's armor is even more disparate. Even if it is bombarded by a few shells, it will only have left shallow traces and had no impact at all on the navy on the ship. At this time, Sakaski was still in the same posture with his arms folded across his chest. He seemed to be looking at the struggling pirates, but in fact, his eyes were always staring at Xiliu's figure. In his eyes, Xiliu just jumped out of the first pirate ship, and then flew across the sea at an extremely fast speed, dragging traces of afterimages behind him. Every time his body had a tendency to fall, he stepped on it lightly. As soon as the wave broke out, he continued to move forward at high speed with the help of the force of the wave being blown apart by his kick. Sakaski is also a master of the 6 moves. He can tell at a glance that Xiliu is the moon step technique, but it changes from stepping on the air to stepping on the waves. Compared to air, waves are actually easier to ride on. Immediately afterwards, Xiliu jumped onto the second pirate ship and started a new round of bloody killings, which made Sakaski frown a little. It's not that I'm dissatisfied with killing pirates, but I think Xiliu's method is too inefficient. If it had been for him, he would have swallowed up all the pirate ships with a big breath of fire. Xiliu's strength is obviously at the level of a swordsman. It stands to reason that he can also use a flying slash to quickly cut a ship in half. Even if he can't kill 7 ships with one sword, there is still no problem with one sword and one ship, right? Judging from the current situation, if Xiliu continued to kill one ship after another, he would eventually have to let 1 or 2 ships of pirates go. However, he did not want to intervene in advance before those pirate ships sailed out of Sakaski's attack range anyway. It's just a matter of 1 or 2 anti-aircraft lava bombs. With his insightful and domineering perception and prediction, he can completely achieve precise strikes against large targets such as sea ships. In this regard, even the warship under my feet is far inferior to myself. But sometimes as a general, you cannot take action personally at all times. Soldiers fight against soldiers, and against generals. This has its own reasons. As a general, you cannot blindly grab the military exploits of your troops. On Xiliu's side, he cut open the rushing pirate with his sword, and watched excitedly as the head behind the broken sword slid down, and a pillar of blood rose into the sky. Cool. Looking back, behind him there was a pool of blood on the ground with corpses. Vice Admiral Akainu, CP-5 hidden in the Maidan Kingdom, sent detailed information. A major on the warship ran over and reported loudly. He had to raise his voice, otherwise the sound of the flying shells breaking through the air and the subsequent explosions could easily cover up the human voice. "Tell me about it," Sakaski said in a deep voice. "Most of this group of pirates are civilians in the country. The leader is named Cass. He was originally a middle-level general in the king's army. His wife and daughter were taken away by Viscount Gadwell of the country 2 weeks ago and were taken away by him a week ago. Sold to a slave company. For this reason, Cass led his trusted soldiers to incite the common people who were already dissatisfied with the nobles to rebel. He first robbed the king's warship at the dock, then hung the pirate flag that had been prepared on the mast, and then in the name of the Cass pirates they attacked and killed the king's army, plundered all the food and treasures in the dock warehouse, and bombarded the upper city where the royal family and nobles lived for nearly half an hour. It is said that the place was in ruins at this time, and the nobles suffered heavy casualties. After hearing that this was another incident of nobles forcing soldiers and civilians to rebel, Sakaski was silent for a moment and uttered a word coldly. "Idiot." The headquarters major thought he was scolding the noble, which made him dare not say anything more. That idiot named Cass not only killed himself, but also killed everyone who followed him. Sakaski looked at the pirate ships in the distance that were being attacked by Xiliu. "If he doesn't fly the pirate flag, this matter has little to do with our navy." The major suddenly realized, and said secretly, "Yes, if that Cass doesn't fly the pirate flag, then they are not pirates, but the civil strife of the kingdom of Macdan, and naturally they will not be arrested by their navy. According to the laws of the world government, the navy has no right to intervene in civil strife in its affiliated countries. Unless the king of the country first applies for assistance from the world government, the government council will then decide whether to help the country after discussion based on Cipher Pole's investigation information. If it is confirmed, the navy headquarters will be notified to send troops for rescue. Then the Navy Marshal will hand over the information of the main rebel personnel to the relevant departments to determine the amount of the reward and the reward list. Finally, we have to consider what level of generals to dispatch and what size of fleet to bring. This process will take at least a day or 2 at the earliest. Including the travel time, it will take at least 3 or 4 days. If the country is far away, it will take even longer. Obviously, the king of the kingdom of Maidan knew the rules very well, so he called the navy directly and said that an extremely large number of pirates had attacked his country. In this way, it is equivalent to omitting the previous tedious procedures, and the navy only needs to notify nearby warships to rush over. But in fact, Cass and his gang had just hoisted the pirate flag, and they were not rewarded by the navy, so, can they be considered pirates? Calculate, because they flew the pirate flag. According to the regulations of the Navy, as long as the ship is flying the pirate flag or there is a skull pattern painted on the sail, it is a pirate. Even if there is no reward, it can be caught. At most, the reward will be added later. That's it, you don't even need to offer a reward. After all, you've already been caught, therefore, it cannot be said that Cass and others were wronged when they were massacred by Xiliu. It was just like Sakaski said, they were too stupid, and the king was too smart. While the warship was learning all the details of the mission, the famous sword Xiliu in Xiliu's hand had already killed all the pirates on the 5 ships. But just as Sakaski had speculated before, 2 ships had gradually sailed away, or were running frantically for their lives. This caused hot lava to flow out of his right arm. Black smoke rolled into the blue sky. As the red lava dripped onto the deck, a thick smell of sulfur filled the air. Buzz. Just when Sakaski was about to take action, a wide and long scarlet sword suddenly appeared, and then flew across the sea at an extremely alarming speed, instantly cutting off the main masts and poles of the 2 pirate ships. Sail. When the sail fell into the sea, the ship could no longer use the power of the wind to sail, and its speed quickly slowed down. It didn't take long for it to float back and forth with the waves, completely turning into a huge wooden coffin on the sea. The more than 200 people on board could only watch in despair as the bloodthirsty devil approached. Not long after, there were screams and screams of death again and again, but it only lasted for about half a minute before it fell into silence again. Very good. Sakaski's eyes were full of admiration. He originally thought about letting the ghost spider be his adjutant, but now this Xiliu is also very good. Now that he has hoisted the pirate flag and plans to form a pirate group, he will die unjustly and be ineligible to breathe air. Pirates are all a bunch of damn trash. Chapter 37 The King of the Celestial Dragons. You are listening at NovelFold.audio. The night sky of this world is very strange. Through astronomical observations, scholars have determined that there are as many as 9 satellites orbiting this blue planet. However, when darkness falls, only the moon shines brightest among the stars. Doflamingo walked out of the parked bubble cable car, a gust of cold night wind blowing his pink flamingo coat. However, he found that there was not even a Holy Land garrison standing guard nearby, which made him laugh in a low voice while looking at the huge stairs leading to the upper level in front of him. Although so many years have passed, there is really no change here. But can power really be as immortal as these stone steps? Let's go, the adults are waiting for you. At this time, the CP0 member in white who went to Beihai to specially invite Doflamingo over, urged him, then stepped over the former's shoulder and took the lead on the road to the huge stairs. A few months later, 200 kings from the participating countries will also pass through here, and then gather in the World Conference Hall in Pongal Castle to discuss and decide on major issues affecting the entire world. At this moment, there were only 2 of them, one behind the other, climbing. To the top of the huge stairs, you will arrive at the real Moria. This place is called the Holy Land. Even the ground under your feet is clean and tidy, as if every particle of gravel has been washed. Doflamingo raised his eyes and looked into the distance. Although it was night now, the unknown number of various lights had already illuminated the entire Moria as if it were daytime. Even the rows of woods and the river were glowing with light. A faint golden light. This is truly magnificent and brightly lit. Seeing this scene, his body was trembling faintly, because he was trying to suppress the anger and desire in his heart. He was supposed to live here, high up, doing whatever he wanted, looking down at all the humans below. Although it was only a few years ago, it must be said that Doflamingo's happiest childhood was actually in this place. Here the waiters bowed their heads in front of him, the slaves knelt in front of him, they could eat endless delicacies in different ways every day, they had infinite wealth that did not have to worry about money, and they could kill any life at any time except for their fellows of supreme power. These originally belonged to him. Until that extremely stupid idiot used his ridiculous naivety to destroy everything and take away everything. His mother died because of him and his brother disappeared. Although I personally shot that bastard at that time, what I lost was that I can no longer have it. Doflamingo followed CP0 onto the escalator, letting the underground slaves get up for him late at night and push the heavy stone road desperately for him. The former actually didn't know about all this, but given his character, even if he knew about it, he would only enjoy it and have no other thoughts, because he should be aloof. On the way, Doflamingo saw the large iron gate leading to the land of the gods from a distance. The Holy Land garrison at that place was still standing guard. He knew that his former home was there, but it was just a glance, and the last sight turned to the huge castle that was getting closer and closer, the city of Pangal that represented the center of power in the world. "Hey, I hope you won't let me down this time." Doflamingo pursed his lips subconsciously, feeling a little nervous. He is just 17 years old this year, and he is still very immature in terms of character, city, and strength. Even in terms of knowledge, he is only in the 1/3 of an acre in Beihai. Not long after, Doflamingo arrived in front of Pangal City, and the huge main gate made of steel slowly rose. To be honest, everything became strange when he got here. After all, how could he come to this place as a child, so he could only be on guard and follow CP0 silently, while keeping the surrounding environment in mind. The space inside this city within a city is quite large, but for some reason, I still haven't seen a single patrolling or standing guard soldier, and it's very quiet, until he was brought to a cold, dark and empty hall. Only the golden and red throne on the 3-story majestic stone platform shone brightly in the direct moonlight, but there's no one up there either. "Aren't you here to meet Wulaoxing, huh?" Doflamingo had just scanned the surroundings, and when he turned around to ask, he immediately found that the other person was gone. Boom! At this moment, the door behind him closed heavily, which stimulated his whole body. His fingers turned into claws, his body bent, and his whole body instantly entered a fighting state. Even the domineering force he had just mastered was ready to go. Doflamingo now seriously suspects that this is a trap set by the celestial dragons against him. He was like a wild cat in a cage, looking around at every move with teeth and claws, and there were thin threads faintly fluttering between his fingers. The atmosphere became very stiff and awkward, as if the air was frozen at this moment, but time still passed slowly like running water, until Doflamingo once again looked up at the truly high void throne above his head. But just such a glance made him shocked. His whole body froze there, as if he had been subjected to some kind of stasis effect. His eyes under the sunglasses also opened to the maximum, and his pupils were filled with the image of the person who did not know when he was sitting on the throne. Figure. This was not what frightened him the most. The key was that when his eyes met the eyes of the person above him, his spirit seemed to have received a substantial invisible impact, and an extremely strong sense of fear kept washing through his heart. He only felt that he was spinning wildly in a golden rippled world, and the air around him was vibrating and gradually becoming heavier. Every muscle in his body was trembling with pain, and he was mentally frightened. Doflamingo couldn't hold on for even 2 seconds. He knelt down on his knees with a bang, holding on with only his arms. He stood on the cold ground, gritting his teeth and trying to raise his head, but the invisible weight on his body caused his head with protruding veins to bow his head and stare at the spotless precious red carpet in front of him. Who is this guy? 5 old stars. How could there be such a terrifying person who could make me fall to my knees with just one look? It's me, little Don Quixote, and I want to see you. As soon as he finished speaking, Doflamingo felt that the pressure on his body had been relieved a lot, but when he was panting heavily and ready to stand up in a cold sweat, the air on his body was like a solidified invisible mountain that did not move at all. Let him continue to kneel down unless he is willing to lie on the ground. Who are you? Doflamingo struggled to spit out one word after another. The feeling of fear surrounding his heart really made him extremely painful. As for the heavy pressure on his body, he also found that as long as he didn't think about getting up, the air was still ordinary air. Such a magical method made him subconsciously think that it was the ability of some kind of devil fruit. I am your king. Incomparably cold words came down from the void throne and rippled in the empty hall. King of the Celestial Dragons. Chapter 38, The Birth of the Kings Shichibukai. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The King of the Celestial Dragons. Doflamingo, who was forced to remain in a kneeling position, was stunned for a moment when he heard this. He thought the other party was someone from the 5 old stars, but now it seems that this is not the case, or is it that there are 5 people in this so-called king? Baeoea that even in such a terrifying situation, Doflamingo could still manage to laugh, but his pale face and the cold sweat that turned into drops of water on his forehead made him look very embarrassed. Then, the king of the celestial dragons, oh no, what do you want from me? I stopped being a celestial dragon a long time ago, that the pressure on his body suddenly decreased, and what he said finally returned to normal, except that the rough breathing was intermittent. From the moment you kneel down, your Tianlong qualifications have been restored. The person at the top replied lightly. Doflamingo pondered this sentence. I always feel that the meaning of this sentence is that only Tianlong people are qualified to kneel down and worship each other, so when he kneels down, he regains the identity of Tianlong people. Extremely arrogant. This was his second impression of the other party. The first impression was that he was extremely powerful. Don Quixote. Doflamingo, I grant you the honor of being the king of the Shichibukai, and the qualifications to receive my direct orders. This is another extremely arrogant sentence, containing strong words that cannot be rejected. What is King Shichibukai? Doflamingo raised his doubts, but this time he didn't hear a reply for a long time, which made him hesitate. After about 10 minutes, he cautiously tried to raise his head. Immediately, he found that everything was back to normal, and there was no one on the void throne. When did you leave? Doflamingo stood up with an extremely ugly face, feeling that everything he had just experienced was too inexplicable. The king of the celestial dragons. King Shichibukai. By the way, I easily recovered my identity as a celestial dragon. What should he say? What should he do next? Just go back like this? Just when Doflamingo was in trouble, the door behind him slowly opened again, and this time he turned around immediately, but just when he was about to take precautions, he found 5 middle-aged men in white robes appearing in front of them. Relax, little one. We are the 5 old stars you want to meet. When Doflamingo heard this, he complained in his heart, didn't you invite me here? How come I want to see you? But he was relieved in his heart, finally having someone with whom he could talk normally. Let's go and sit down at our place. We will explain the specific situation to you clearly. Ha-ah-yeah, in that case, why do you 5 have to come in person? Can't you just ask someone to take me there? Doflamingo sneered. Every matter involving lordom in this city of Pangal is carried out personally by the 5 of us. The bald old man holding a long sword and wearing a white kimono said expressionlessly, and then the 5 people turned around and left the hall again in tacit agreement. Seeing this, Doflamingo could only follow him. In fact, he was full of question marks. It didn't take long for him to follow Wulaoxing to a luxurious and spacious room, especially the sofa set in the center was even more eye-catching. I saw the 5 people in front sitting back in their usual positions. Among them, the 5 old stars with mustaches sitting in the middle pointed at the still empty sofa. Just sit there. Doflamingo had no objection, and sat down on the sofa with an arrogant step as if he didn't recognize his relatives. He often sat on the sofa, and he was very skilled at it. Speaking of which, this is the first time that a non-5 old star has sat on the sofa in this hall of power, and you are the first one. That's really an honor. Doflamingo crossed his legs and grinned. There is no need to be honored. You are now the envoy of Lord Im, a member of the 7 martial seas under the king, and have regained the identity of Tianlong. You are fully qualified to sit with us. The blonde Wulaoxing showed a hint of smile. Then let's talk about it. Who is this Sama, and what is the king's Shichibukai? Doflamingo was still young and couldn't help but ask anxiously. It was true that his mind had been greatly impacted and he really couldn't calm down. Don't worry, we will explain one by one. Among the 5 old stars, the bald man with a mustache seems to be the main one. His voice sounds the most calm and majestic, giving people a vague sense of oppression. Lord Im is our master, the king of all the celestial dragons, the founder of the world government, and the true controller. The supreme existence of the past, present and future. If there must be a god in this world, then this is the only god in the long history. that his tone was full of fanatical admiration, and his expression during the introduction was like an extreme devout man trying his best to suppress the excitement in his heart. Although the other four did not speak, the brilliance in their eyes was the same. However, there is a saying that the ignorant are fearless. Although Doflamingo has just experienced the horror of him, he has not lived in Mariajoya since he was a child, and he has not been exposed to the most secret history. Therefore, he has no feelings for him. My mood is more of fear and apprehension. Among them, regarding this introduction, he immediately grasped the key point, the founder of the world government. Doesn't this mean that the man sitting on the throne of the void is very likely to have lived from 800 years ago to the present? Thinking of this, Doflamingo's heart became even heavier. So, where is the king's Shichibukai? As I said just now, Your Majesty Shichibukai is the envoy of Imsama. Not only is he qualified to talk to us directly, but he is also qualified to receive direct orders from you. But you need to keep this identity a secret, and the same goes for your restoration of the celestial dragon identity. Hearing this, Doflamingo understood and said with a smile, "Hey, he seems to want me to do something for you. Everyone has value, doesn't he? Okay, let's talk about it. What do you want me to do?" Doflamingo relaxed and lay on the soft sofa behind him. "You have to maintain your current external identity, penetrate into the dark world, and provide us with the information we need. Of course, we will also provide you with the necessary help during this period." Wulaoxing with the mustache said directly. Doflamingo laughed after hearing this. Isn't this what he wanted to do? Becoming a big figure in the dark world is his first goal, but now he has an additional task of providing intelligence to the world government. The key is that he still has to do it. Can get secret help from the 5 old stars. It seems that no matter how you look at it, you have made your own money. Okay, I agree. That's good, you can take this. I will contact you through it if I need anything in the future. I saw the mustachioed star holding out a golden phone bug with black circles printed on its body. Doflamingo took it and put it on his palm and looked at it twice. At this moment, the other party suddenly said something that made his heart tremble. By the way, your brother Don Quixote Rocinante is in Marineland at this time. You caught him? Doflamingo's relaxed expression darkened instantly, his voice lowered, and his attitude became bad. If that's the case, then he should stay in the Holy Land prison or Impelton. The 5 old stars with straight long hair and beard sighed at the side. Don't worry, that little guy is very lucky. He met the Warring States period and was adopted as an adopted son. However, his personality is completely opposite to yours. He obviously has the same experience as you, but he is a very kind child. This is really a good thing. A strange thing. Doflamingo pursed his lips and remained silent for a moment, then stood up and said with a stern face, "Is everything okay? I'm leaving without you." Chapter 39, Fishman Island Naval Branch. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. 2 months have passed since Doflamingo left Mariajoya, and it was now mid-April. However, for people living on the Grand Line, months are really just months and have nothing to do with climate and seasons. Moreover, the World Conference in June is getting closer and closer. Your Majesty, since February of this year, the number of incidents of human pirates breaking in and trying to kidnap mermaids has been increasing. It has become more and more serious since this month. 4 incidents occurred in just 2 weeks. Fortunately, the Sea King army caught up with the general in time. They were rescued, but more than 100 soldiers were injured. Wei Chen feels that if this continues, the situation will get worse. In the luxurious hall of Dragon Palace City on Fishman Island, the left minister of the catfish Fishman looked at King Neptune on the stage with worry. It's all because of the rumor about One Piece's great treasure. King Neptune covered his forehead in distress. Now this rumor was so widespread that even he, who was 10,000 meters under the sea, knew about it. But what can we do? The basic strength of fishmen is indeed 10 times that of humans, but how can those human pirates who have traveled all the way through the first half of the grand route and arrived here be ordinary people? In the final analysis, we still don't have a strong person to take charge. After hearing the king's words, Ministers Wa had nothing to say. The soldiers of the Sea King army are not weak, but they are just not weak. Let alone the New World, even in the Paradise, they are not very powerful. General, please pay homage to your majesty. At this moment, the right minister of the Seahorse Mermaid hurried in and reported, Your Majesty, the world government's ships and naval warships are waiting for entry outside the main gate. Please come in quickly. King Neptune's eyes lit up and his mood gradually became excited. He had a hunch that the current troubles facing Fishman Island would be solved soon. After half an hour that made the Mermaid King extremely tormented, Coulson and a tall naval commander, whom he had met before, walked into the hall. Welcome, welcome, welcome Director Coulson to visit our Fishman Island again. King Neptune looked very happy and enthusiastic. Long time no see, His Majesty the King. Coulson showed his signature smile and then introduced the people around him. This is Vice Admiral Akiji from the Navy headquarters, and he is also the newly promoted general. Kazan looked at the giant Mermaid King sitting on the throne and greeted him politely, Hello, I am Kazan. Please give me your advice in the future. Hello. King Neptune didn't know what to say, so he turned to Coulson and asked, Why are you two here this time? Coulson kept a gentle smile on his face. According to the previously signed communiqué on the establishment of equal and friendly relations between humans and the Mermaid tribe and the Murloc tribe, I have brought Marie Joa and all the Merfolk and Murloc tribes in the participating countries. Your Majesty can send personnel to receive them. Real? King Neptune immediately stood up and excitedly ordered Ministers Wa on the side to go over. Take someone to see it quickly. Yes, Wei Chen will do it now. Ministers Wa was also very excited. In the past, wanting the Tianlongs and those nobles to return the mermaids they bought was simply wishful thinking and a daydream. Seeing Ministers Wa disappear outside the hall door, King Neptune expressed his heartfelt thanks to Coulson and the world government. Seeing this, Kazan sighed in his heart. Although he didn't know why, the world government seemed to have changed a lot recently. This was true of the Drum Kingdom, and it was true of this Fishman Island. These were all acts of justice that he had witnessed with his own eyes and even participated in. This made Kazan, whose blood had not yet cooled down, unknowingly have a much better impression of the world government. Coulson waited for King Neptune's excitement to calm down and spoke again. Your Majesty, in addition to helping with the escort this time, Lieutenant General Akiji is also preparing to build a naval branch on Fishman Island. In the next few years, he will be responsible for the relevant matters. Navy Division. King Neptune was stunned, and immediately remembered that there was indeed such an article in the communiqué, and asked, How many people will the Navy station here, and where will the branch be built? Coulson did not reply to this question, but Kazan was responsible for the answer. The tentative plan is that I will bring the first batch of 1,000 headquarters Navy to the Fishman Island. After the construction of the main facilities of the branch is completed, follow-up 4,000 Marines will be stationed. After he finished speaking, Coulson continued. The construction project of the Navy branch is handled by the construction team brought by our administrative department. As for the location of the branch, we still need to wait for professional inspections before making a decision. I hope that Fishman Island can provide some support. Of course there is no problem, but I thought you would not come here until at least after the World Conference. King Neptune laughed heartily. If everything goes well, according to the construction period, construction will start from now and it will be almost completed after the World Conference. Coulson smiled. I see. Then where will Vice Admiral Akiji and the Navy be stationed before the branch facilities are completed? King Neptune asked doubtfully. Kazan replied, During this period, we will live in the warship to ensure that it will not affect the residents. How can this be done? Although our Fishman Island is not big, we still have enough space to accommodate 1,000 people. King Neptune was naturally unwilling to treat Kazan and the Navy so poorly. He knew very well that his citizens would be dependent on each other's protection for a long time to come. In this way, Ministers Wa, you can temporarily station the Navy in Shueche town in the north, and then let the craftsmen quickly build a batch of shell houses. Yes, Your Majesty. That would be troublesome. Kazan thanked him politely, and then followed the orange-skinned seahorse minister out, but Coulson, who stayed behind, did not leave immediately. Your Majesty Neptune, according to the communique, Fishman Island can also station troops in the Shampoo Islands. We have vacated Area 62. King Neptune scratched the back of his head in embarrassment and said with a smile, "Ah, well. I'm sorry, we thought this matter would not be carried out until after the World Conference, so we haven't had time to discuss it yet." Coulson didn't care, just nodded, and continued, "There is also the matter of sending mermaids or fishmen to join the world government, the Navy and other departments. This time I brought the number of fishmen that the Navy wants to introduce. List of important murlocs. Oh. Tell me." King Neptune was curious about how many murlocs the Navy would allow to join, and who the so-called main murlocs were. The Navy headquarters will introduce the first batch of 200 fishmen or mermaids. Among them, the mermaids will mainly work as civilians, while the murlocs will form the murloc force. As he spoke, Coulson took out a piece of white paper from his arms and recorded the names of several fishmen on it. The important mermaids are Fisher Tiger, Jinbe, and Aladdin. When King Neptune heard these three names, he was stunned at first, and then looked confused. "I've heard of Fisher Tiger, but Jinbe, Aladdin, who are these?" According to intelligence, the 22-year-old whale shark man Jinbe and the multi-bearded weasel fish man Aladdin are serving in your Sea King army. Outside, Minister Zhua, who had a catfish face, looked at the mermaids and fishmen who came off the world government's ship strangely. They don't look like much on the outside, no injuries, disabilities or anything like that, but aren't their cheerful, smiling faces a bit too optimistic? They were slaves before, however. Minister Zhua could only shake his head in the end, thinking that these people were too happy. After all, being able to return to Fishman Island alive is indeed something to be thankful for. Chapter 40 The Superman-type Tuntun Fruit. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Marie Joa, within a month, was looking at various reports sent by the 5 old stars. After all, he has decided to personally take charge of the world government. This kind of work is definitely indispensable. As for the Siga Kingdom, the ice stairs and ice bridge connecting Sigam Peak have been completed with the efforts of Kazan. Judging from the photos, they are extremely majestic and spectacular. They sparkle in the sun and are simply like miraculous works of art, especially the ice staircase, because it is a full 5,000 meters high. The size and scale of the stairs are very exaggerated, almost surrounding half of the Tsigu mountain peak, and there are very spacious platforms every kilometer. It is said that the construction team of the administration department is not only building the facilities of the medical college and World Hospital, but also building some small buildings. Pavilions and chairs on these platforms for people to rest, but even so, the difficulty is not small. After all, the construction materials have to be moved to a 5,000-meter mountain peak. As for Gaia Island, it has now become a breeding base for guide birds. In the future, it is planned to become the world's largest zoo, where all kinds of rare animals will be raised. It will also be the largest research place for zoologists. As for the islands, the security work is left to the army, because there is a G branch of the Navy around it. Let's look at the situation in the capital of 7 waters. Picked up the report and read it carefully. Generally speaking, everything was going smoothly. The Hulk Island, where hundreds of broken ships were originally piled, has now been cleaned up by the construction team of the administration department, and new ones are being built as soon as possible. Tom's studio and Sea Train's RD factory. The reason why we need to hurry up is because the report mentions that every year in June or July, a super tsunami called the Water Gods hits the capital of 7 waters. Therefore, they must build a building facility that can withstand the impact of tsunami and seawater flooding before June. To this end, the administration department even applied for technical support from the Science Corps. Seeing this, frowned and murmured in a low voice, "Gods of water. This is indeed a big trouble." This capital of 7 waters has been the main manufacturing plant for naval warships in the past, and in the future it will be the research and development and manufacturing plant for sea trains. Especially the latter is related to the transportation issues of the participating countries under the entire world government, and must be taken seriously. We have to find a way to solve it. otherwise it won't be a problem to face tsunamis year after year. But for a while, Im had no clue, so he had no choice but to put the report back on the coffee table and pick up another report. This is about the renovation progress of the terrifying three-masted sailboat. Originally, the administrative department wanted to bring it to the Seven Waters capital and then spend money to hire the best shipwrights for construction. However, after inspection by professionals, it was discovered that its renovation basically had nothing to do with shipwrights, but required a large number of construction craftsmen. Therefore, this super sailing ship, which is called a ship but can be called an island in scale, is currently being repaired, transformed and renovated by a large number of craftsmen in a secret place close to the Red Earth continent. Judging from the plan, the Gothic castles above will be painted white, and the woods will be cleared and turned into Navy training grounds and dormitories. However, the construction period is a bit long. It is said that it will take about 6 months. This made I'm a little unhappy. The situation at sea was now becoming increasingly chaotic. Because of the rumors of the big treasure, the number of pirates increased significantly. Now, several Navy G bases in the first half of the Grand Line are extremely busy, especially with bounty orders being sent out by the dozen. Therefore, this naval branch base in Topsy-Turvy Mountain is very critical. The next few reports included the opinions of Dr. Guriva and many outstanding doctors from the Drum Kingdom on platinum lead disease, Shirlyo's performance after becoming Akainu's adjutant, and Monkey D. Drago's report to 5-letter from the Old Star. Shirlyo's matter is not important. With Akainu here, there is no fear that he will not be able to control him. Im pays more attention to the matter of platinum lead disease and Dorag. Let's talk about the former first. Guriva and others have personally checked the conditions of the patient secretly sent by CP4 from Beihai. They found that this was a typical symptom of chronic heavy metal poisoning, but the weird thing about this, platinum lead, is that it can be passed on to the next generation. It stands to reason that heavy metal poisoning is unlikely to be hereditary, but it does happen, and it is not inherited at one time, but continues to be inherited. However, these doctors with superb medical skills have discovered that the platinum lead is mainly concentrated in the patient's liver, and the Dr. Gyulwa, who is more than 100 years old, has tried to remove the platinum lead from the liver through a miraculous operation. Platinum lead, but the final result is not optimistic. After that, they tried to treat it with drugs, but the existing drugs for heavy metal poisoning were not very effective, so they had to develop a new drug for platinum and lead. The time it will take is completely unknown. Since conventional medical methods are not effective, it is better to try the extraordinary ability of devil fruit. The first thing Im thought of was, of course, the surgical fruit. In the future, Luo relied on it to heal himself, but now he knows we're in Beihai. In addition, there is also a superhuman healing fruit. This can be regarded as a real symptomatic fruit. Even by consuming lifespan, both organic and inorganic substances can be restored to their original state. Even without consuming lifespan, the injuries of all living creatures can be cured. Hey, the little human princess Manxili may not be born yet, but you can send CP6 to Dressrosa to find this healing fruit. Im thought thoughtfully. If possible, of course he hopes to have such an awesome devil fruit in his hands, and the small human race itself is also worth befriending. They are called green managers, and they claim to be the only ones in the world. Plants cannot be cultivated by their family. Is this ability astonishing? The average Shinon clan per capita? But the problem is that these little humans are said to have had a grudge with the Don Quixote family 900 years ago, so they hate the house and the whole family, and they probably don't have a good impression of other celestial dragons. This is a bit annoying. By the way, you can also find future Princess Violet's staring fruit. What is the concept of an observation radius of 4,000 kilometers? The country of China in the previous life had a diameter of 5,500 kilometers from north to south, 5,200 kilometers from east to west, and a width of 19,900 kilometers from east to west of the Pacific Ocean, which is equivalent to being able to see through 3/4 of China and 1/5 of the Pacific Ocean at a glance. Dong dong dong, just when Im felt more and more that the kingdom of Dressrosa was a treasure, there was a gentle knock on the door of the tree house, and at the same time, the information about the person who knocked on the door appeared in his mind through seeing and hearing hockey. Come in. That I saw a charming maid walking in carrying a silver wooden box. but she only dared to stand on the edge of the door. "Sir, this is what Wulaoxing asked me to hand over to you. It is said to be the superhuman Tuntun fruit that CP5 found in the Drum Kingdom." "The fruit," that I was greatly surprised. "This is a good thing." Before, just in case, he asked the 5 old stars to send people to search for it secretly. Unexpectedly, they found it, but they still maintained a natural calm on the surface. "Let it go." "Yes." The maid came in and put the wooden box on the coffee table, then exited the wooden house respectfully, and closed the door again. Also took out the Tuntun fruit, squinting and looking at the purple-red fruit with its surface covered with a devil fruit with black spiral lines that looks like a fat eggplant. It can perfectly fuse organic and inorganic substances together, and can even swallow people with abilities to gain their abilities. If this thing is used properly, it can benefit the entire civilization, but you have to carefully consider who to give it to. But then again, I found the Tuntun fruit, but what about the Renren fruit? I'm a little confused when I think about this. I don't know whether I hope to find the latter or not, because if I find him, wouldn't Chopper be gone?